Hey, hello. Are we live? I think we're live.
We're live.
Hello. Welcome back to FilmHub. This is episode what, 5 or 6? I think I wrote it wrong here.
7?
7?
No, I don't know. I haven't checked.
Whoa.
Welcome back to
Damn.
FilmHub, the only YouTube channel where we can't remember what episode we're on.
Yep. We have no
We're
schedule.
on an episode.
No sense of commitment. We just do it when we want to.
All right. So what do we talk about, guys? What are we talking about today?
We're
I
talking
think we all
about
know.
Captain Marvel. We're here to talk about Captain Marvel, man. I'm hyped.
Have you seen Captain Marvel? Has everyone here seen Captain Marvel?
I believe so, yes.
Imagine if one of us hadn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Talk
so
shit about
awkward.
Captain Marvel. That'd be horrible if we hadn't seen it.
Don't spoil it for me.
So, yeah, I don't know. I know John has like a whole list that he's gonna do. What are we gonna talk about today?
Well, I think we should just first start off with our brief thoughts on the movie as it just came out. But I think we want to talk more about the broad conversation surrounding this movie, as well as give our thoughts on the film and what it means for Marvel Studios going forward and everything like that. So who do we want to begin with? Anyone want to volunteer?
There are gonna be spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Someone asked.
Spoilers are
Yeah.
right.
We're gonna talk about spoilers.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Could I just say, yeah, in the last cast, we said we'd stop using Google Hangouts, and of course, we have failed that already.
I tried to set it up.
John tried.
Yeah.
John tried his best.
I couldn't figure it out in time. I didn't know how to, but I'll figure it next. Give me 20 minutes. I couldn't figure it out in 20 minutes. So
Apparently, Alex already knows how to do it, so as soon as we have Alex available for a
The
video,
next
we'll be good.
We'll be good. Yeah.
Um,
Someone
someone
asked, is it
start.
still on Hangouts? Yeah, we're still Hangouts. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Someone who's offering their thoughts first.
I'll go.
Yep, go for it.
I haven't I believe Bailey and Mauricio, you just post a review, so I haven't had my thoughts publicly about the movie. Honestly, I thought the first 40 minutes were really solid. I was really intrigued by the setup. There was one scene early on that really hooked me, and that was when Captain Marvel was captured by the Skrulls and she was upside down, and that when they were probing her mind and that them going through her memories was an exposition dump for us, and not only an exposition dump, but also a trigger for the character to investigate this stuff herself. That scene really caught my guard and like, wow, this is really interesting. I want to see where this goes. And the more the mystery unraveled, the less interesting the film got to me. That it never truly escalated. It never evolved. The butterfly never sprouted its wings to me with this film. The action scenes were rather pedestrian. They felt very second unit. They felt very done by committee. And really the saving grace for me was the Captain Marvel and Nick Fury dynamic. And I wanted more of that throughout the film. I thought that those two had a really great chemistry where they both were reliant on each other. Nick Fury was more intelligent, tech-wise, Earth-wise, but Captain Marvel was very powerful. And I wish the two of them really got... that was the most interesting stuff to me, and I felt like that dynamic was barely there towards the end. And besides that, there's other thoughts I have, but those were my initial thoughts of cool setup, cool character dynamics, but it never really escalated in an interesting way. And I really liked Brie Larson. I thought she was the best part of the movie, and I was confused by the thoughts on her character. I thought she fit the role in a way that I wasn't expecting. So, lukewarm for me, but not too hot, not too cold. I'm not particularly passionate about this one.
Houston, are you muted?
Yes, I am. I was.
All right.
How did you know? You just saw my
little
face.
mute
I
icon.
thought
I
it was
see
like
the
a
mute
muted
icon.
face.
Does anyone want to talk about? Want to talk next, or do I talk next?
I can go next.
Right. I'm so tired of talking about the movie already.
Yeah, well, how do you think I saw it like nearly a week ago now, so I'm done. So for me, I think it was kind of evident like straight away that I was going to have issues with this movie because there's like a grand total of about 4 shots, and then we're into a training sequence like straight away. And I was like, any movie going for a training sequence that early is gonna have a couple of issues with its pacing and its characterization. And Look, here's the thing. I don't think I'm someone who even like Thor: The Dark World is considered the bad Marvel movie or something, isn't it? Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I'm
I
someone who still likes Thor: The Dark World. Like
It's
for
good.
me, there's
I swear it's good. It's a good
Yeah.
movie.
I
It's
think The
fine.
Dark World is fine. I don't really hate it. I really
It's
don't.
fine.
Yeah.
So for me, there's no Marvel movie I don't exactly like, and there's no Marvel movie that I really like love. So it kind of fell into that group for me. I think this is one of those Marvel movies though, and I've never really had it before. I know that some of you guys have had it with like Ant-Man and the Wasp, and a couple of other ones, but this is the first one where I had where I was like, wow, the basics of storytelling here are really not up to scratch. So for me, it was just a case of like, just scenes where like my main thing was like, what was Carol's like arc? Or like, yeah, she's got an arc or she learns stuff by the end of the movie, but at what point was that set up as being a hurdle she needed to cross? Like in the same way that the Captain America movies or the Iron Man movies or the Thor movies or just pretty much any of the Marvel movies set up, the main thing that we attach to is like, what is that character arc? What is their growth? And it's about watching these characters grow. And for me, Captain Marvel just didn't have that. It's like, okay, we're going to pair her up with Nick Fury. And then neither of those characters, for me at least, really felt like they offered something the other didn't have. Like it wasn't, you know what I mean? So it's just a weird thing where like I like the movie. I could watch it again, but it just really didn't have any of the basics there that kind of powered the story along for me or engaged me in it. So
I talked
yeah, I
about
don't
something
know.
similar to that in my analysis. I try to make it more like an analysis and less like a review because I wanted to explain exactly what I didn't really like about the movie. And one of the things I didn't like is how the only time I felt like she really overcame something was when she, was in the when she was speaking to the Supreme Intelligence, and then
Yeah.
she had to like fight that laser. That was the only time I felt like she actually had to, up her game and overcome something. But after that, everything felt really easy for her. And I explained in my video essay that all she had to do was just get stronger and just shoot harder than the enemy to win. And and then I explained like in Iron Man, for example, like at the ending, it's not that Iron Man is just better than the Ironmonger. It's that he has to use his intelligence to basically
Yeah.
outmaneuver him, right? In basically every single Marvel movie, it comes to that. Like the hero has to outwit the villain by using his intelligence or determination. And in this one, she just kind of just powers up, and then she just has to take on all these missiles at one point. And instead of being like, oh man, how do I take out these? She just throws one and blows it up. Then there's a bunch of gigantic ships coming in, and then she's like, oh no, how do I take this
She's
on? Oh,
straight
I
up
can
Man
just
of
punch them.
Steels. She's Man of Steels those ships. I was like, oh
Yeah.
God, there was a
Yeah.
different way to do that rather than killing everyone.
Oh,
But
you know
yeah.
what was great? Not great. I'm sorry, not great. Is that she learns how to fly in like a second, and that I put it in my look. Okay, you're getting like a little sneak peek because in my review I actually had to cut this out. I then wrote it back in. I felt like I was being too picky with this point. It was that no one in the film, it's never established that she can fly, right? In the comics and the continuity, we all know, yeah, Captain Marvel can fly, but in the movie, nobody knows this, right? And she's only been able to just shoot things, right? So when she starts falling in this terrible CGI scene and then she lights up and powers up, she's like, oh, I can fly. And then it's like a Deus Ex Machina, and she can just fly out of there and just start beating up all these missiles and ships and everything. And it felt really out of place for me because it's like, again, it's not like a Man of Steel moment when he learns to fly, or it's not an Iron Man first flight. It's just like I can magically fly now and beat stuff up, and I thought that was really,
To be
really
fair,
lame.
if I can counter that, I think it's the one idea I like in the movie. I don't think it's explored particularly well, but the idea that the Kree, they're kind of gaslighting her. They're specifically telling her lies so that she doesn't become her best self, right? That she, they tell her that your powers are ours and we can take them away from you at any point, and that they just have this chip on her. Like I'm assuming that chip on the back of her neck is supposed to mute her powers. The mechanics of that
Yeah.
were quite clear to me on that.
That wasn't clear to me either. It was kind of wonky. They should have explained stuff better.
But the idea that she believes this is a gift given to her that they can take it away, that they're in control, but then she realizes, no, you're lying. You're lying to me, so I don't become my best self. I'm going to become my best self, take this thing off. Ooh, my powers just got boosted. I like that idea, and I guess that's the idea it's supposed to be in that action scene, that she's falling, but like, I'm going to have more fun with my powers. I'm going to, you know, they're going to kick in, and they're going to save my life in this moment.
I'm gonna counter. Okay, no, go ahead. Yeah.
But I like the idea, but I would agree the execution is not quite there.
I'm gonna counter that real quick. just
it's like a legal court case.
Yeah, it's like ooh, okay. I just felt like the flying. Yeah, it was just for me. I'm not gonna say I'm okay with the flying. I'm just really not okay with the flying. It was just too sudden for me. It just came out of nowhere. But one thing you said, like, heck yeah, like I can use my powers now. I felt like that shouldn't have been a thing. Because it felt like she, again, the entire point, like she has this entire sequence when she's almost crying, and then Maria tells her like, "You're Carol Danvers," and she's crying, and she's like, "I have to accept my humanity and everything." And now she starts to like antagonize the Kree, right? And I feel like they should have explored her relationship with the Kree a lot more. Like she was in the planet for like 5 minutes, and then she's gone, and I felt like that detachment really hurt.
And I never bought why she would leave Earth to go after that war and not.
Yeah, and it was
she was first, and so there's a lot of mixed, confusing story choices I didn't personally get, and it's more just kind of it was like a ride. It's like just stay on board and maybe you'll have fun kind of thing.
I mean, the thing is that there's no tension in the entire last half of the film.
Thank you. That's what I was meaning. That was meaning to say. Yeah, there's no tension.
Yeah. There is no way whatsoever that Carol is in any danger. And look, I get like after a character has a low moment and then they've found their true self. Lots of times you have a scene where then there's the climactic battle and they're the one in power. Like at the end of Spider-Verse, Miles becomes his true self and he comes to the spider to go and beat Doc Ock and everything. And it's very triumphant. There's tension though, but it's a triumphant fight. This was she's just wiping out people and stuff like that. She just wipes the floor with them, and it's all supposed to kind of foreshadow like this is what she's gonna do to Thanos in Endgame kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where I don't know why I would care. Like there's no danger whatsoever.
It's because like it's not about the movie plays it like it's not about her learning to use her powers through an obstacle that teaches her responsibility. It's a case of, oh, now I have powers. Like it's kind of like it's like a Thor Ragnarok thing in terms of like upping the power thing, except not done with any of that skill to set that up.
I actually talked about that in my video essay. Whoa!
And not just that,
exactly.
But the song choice they used during that "Now I'm Powered Up" sequence.
God, it was so bad.
Thank you. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That was probably the point of the film for me.
Do you know how much hate I've been getting on Twitter just because like people are? I said that like I hated the song choice and people were like, I'm okay with it. Like, what are you talking about?
Fine if you're okay with it.
It's just I found it so shockingly bad.
The Galaxy. It's like, song choices in Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is
all done with so much heart in mind and like so much, intention behind them and the meaning they have in the story.
Right? And I think the reason why most of us don't like it is that it was not a Guardians of the Galaxy, needle drop. It was a Suicide Squad needle drop.
Yes. That's a good comparison.
It's one way of I'm just a girl. Like it's just putting the text and the subtext and putting it right in your face to a point where you can't miss it. And that's why subtext works is because it's subtext, because it seeps in there. It doesn't declare itself. And
it was a Nine Inch Nails song.
Girl in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
What? I missed that. Houston, what?
The use of Brandy, You're a Fine Girl in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the best use of music in a Marvel movie and in most blockbusters. Like,
yeah, definitely.
It's so good. Yeah.
And it's diegetic into the song, and like, and this like, what was almost more confusing was when she goes into the computer thing towards the end, and they're playing Nirvana, Heart-Shaped Box, I believe it was.
That was so weird to me too. I don't get why they were playing that.
Oh yeah, that was like a case where they inserted a thing into the actual film itself to explain why there was music playing.
But
yeah, that was so weird.
she was an 80s kid, right? And that's a 90s song, right?
Right, she hasn't been to Earth since
That song
came out.
It was.
Whoa, you guys are blowing my mind right now. That's crazy. That's a good one. That's
And
a
I
good
don't
one.
want to be here like all of us nitpicking just little things.
Right, yeah.
It's and really when you get into this nitpicky stuff, it's more that the broader, deeper, dramatic stuff really wasn't pulling its weight. I can't look to what the big moment is. There's no like when you watch a movie like Thor Ragnarok or Black Panther, no one is confused after what that film is after, what the character arcs are. Everything is clear and precise. And here it's a mishmash of marbles, and
it was so confusing. I was like, "What is she trying to do?" It was so weird.
What am I supposed to take away from the film? Even on the base level of that, it's very confusing.
Well, and everything feels half baked because like I feel like this is the kind of movie where if you want to say that the character arcs worked, you can take tiny lines that were inserted and be like, yeah, see, there is a character arc after all. But there aren't enough of them. Like, that's the thing. Like, they try to set up an arc where basically the Kree are saying you can't have emotion and you need to follow our rules and that kind of thing. And the idea, it seems, was that she would be emotionally detached and forcing herself to limit her powers and that kind of thing. And then she would learn to let loose. But the thing is, they insert lines about that, but she's letting loose from the very start of the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Dramatized through the action, which is the most important thing often.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, there's like a confusion, I think, from the creative team of not understanding, like, so there's obviously a big Tony Stark influence on the way they've chosen to characterize her. But what they don't, I think they've seemed to miss the connection between someone who's cocky and overconfident and just basically like a jock, and someone who's at maximum like intensity and, you know, that level of power the whole time. I mean, like, there's great stuff in her character, like the point where the scroll like roars at her and then she roars back and knocks it out. Edited way too quick. I'm just going to point that bit out. That sequence was like, okay. Like, I didn't think anyone laughed at that at the entire movie until anything like halfway in. The comedy was like, that's a joke. That's a joke. And everyone's like, can't like prep for it because it's edited so quickly. So you can't have time to work out what's a punchline. But like,
on the ship itself before she crashes to Earth was just horrendous. I couldn't believe I was watching.
But like, there's definitely, I forgot what I was talking about now. I hate when this happens.
Crashing in the ship.
Yeah,
the editing was terrible.
Oh no, just with like, no. So her like, she's got a lot of personality. She's got a cockiness and all that, which can really work, right? She's got this kind of Top Gun, like, she's got that kind of vibe to her character. But the thing with that is that her power seems to always match that intensity. There's no, like, but that's what I said, there's no growth to it. So just early on, you can have her be this like kind of edgy, over the like intense woman. That's awesome, right? Heaps of characters are like that, male characters as well. That's all good. But the power level probably should not match that at the start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a disconnect with like, she's powerful, capable, and intense the entire time. And I have a feeling that this is still an origin story. People are like, it's not an origin story. I'm like, it is. Just because they've remixed the order of it doesn't mean it's not one.
Right,
they were just obviously desperately trying to avoid it being a linear origin story. So they pulled it out of sequence. But like, yeah, there's just, I don't know. It feels like there's not much progression or stacking to it, I guess.
No, to me, character is about tension, I think. Like, where tension between two different things. Tony Stark is an interesting character because there's a very clear tension between the selfless side of himself and the arrogant side of himself.
Yeah.
Steve Rogers became an interesting character when they added tension between the black and white World War II hero and the guy who has to see in shades of gray. Every character who's interesting has tension between two different traits, and often many different traits that pull in tandem with each other. Captain Marvel she's
arrogant
to crack jokes, and she's real overconfident.
And you know what? But more importantly, you know a story is good when every great story gives their characters choices, where the options are not clear what is the better choice. Where they have to dig deep down to figure out what the best choice is, and like this movie
And
never has that.
Show you who they are. I mean,
Like
in
this movie
the
never
movie,
has when you know the grenade goes off in Captain America and he jumps on it. That's a clear choice, and you remember that. And you don't need any personality. That's a clear decision. And this movie never does that. You could have done that, for instance, like even just, this is just spitballing, but you could have done that in the opening scene, that she does something heroic to save her team, but that gets her captured by the Skrulls. Even something as simple as that would have given us something to latch on.
I feel like one thing I talked about was that in the movie, I wish she had like this push and pull. Like she wanted to investigate her past, but maybe, you know, she wanted to conform to the Star Force. I feel like the Star Force should have been way more developed. I feel like then if they had developed them more, it would have been a much more powerful scene when she decides to actually kill her friends. It would have been like, you know, she could either be sad that she's having to kill her friends or angry at them because they betrayed her. But in the end, she's just shooting them and then eventually kills all the Kree. And she actually goes, woo, during the movie. And it's just so off-putting to me. It's just weird.
You just brought up a good point that she's fighting her former allies, and there's no weight to that. Like, there's a comment where she's like, you never really liked me, right? And that's like, because you knew. It's like, there's no...
Yeah, it's like, how are we supposed to know? This is the first time I'm hearing about
one scene, but...
I think that's the first line of dialogue they ever had between each other.
I think so. And that's really illuminating, and that it's personality, not character, right? I think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah.
Two completely different things. And this movie had a lot of the former, but not a lot of the latter. Which is sad, and I hope that, again, this is kind of becoming a trend, but I hope that the Russos take the elements of that character and create something that's really dynamic and bounces off the other characters.
Isn't that kind of...
But one movie that I was thinking of, like, I don't want to keep pitting female superhero movies against each other, but that's part of what made Wonder Woman so good, is that throughout the whole movie, at every turn she does, you have Chris Pine's character. I can't remember his name.
Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
So he's always kind of the devil
countering
on his shoulder in a weird way.
It's brilliant.
They have different viewpoints, and those clash with the movie on different aspects on how to fight this war, and that's the quarter drama, and this movie never has that. This movie never has.
That's why the third act of Wonder Woman disappoints me so much, is because, you know, it completely destroys the theme that you can't stop a war by killing one guy. But also, more importantly, the final interaction between her and Steve Trevor, where he tells her that, and he's like, sometimes things are more complicated, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's amazing. So good. And their dynamic is so good because they challenge each other. And even in Wonder Woman, you have so many different choices where she's a strong character because we see her making choices to do things that show us who she is. The No Man's Land sequence, as much as I make fun of the fact that it looks like a Victoria's Secret ad or something where it's like, oh, look at me, I'm a model on this battlefield.
But it works.
It works super well because it shows us who she is as a person and shows us how she's different from everyone else on that battlefield.
Exactly. And
Wonder Woman is so underrated.
And that it's clear.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I want to get at with Captain Marvel. It's like, it's not an obviously good or bad film. It's like, there's no Martha scene in this movie, right? There's no oh my God, that's awful. But the thing
I like the Martha scene.
I maintain.
Wait, what?
What?
Other than the cat scratching out his eye, I maintain.
I was just about to say that.
That was awkward.
God damn.
Nah, there was plenty of stuff I'd classify as being on par with the Martha scene, and I actually kind of like it, so I'm just going to throw that out there. I like the Martha scene.
The reason why I think Black Panther may be the best Marvel movie, the more I think about it, and I'm doing this review on it. But the thing with Black Panther is that when everyone left that theater, no one was confused as to the point of that movie. Everyone was on the exact same playing field of what the themes and what the characters were after in that film. And that usually that's kind of one of my bigger takeaways as I go more into film, is that the more clarity we have on discussing the film, usually the better the film is.
Yeah, I mean,
the more successful the film is.
To go on a tangent about Black Panther, like, that is a movie that provokes so much discussion. I've had so many different, hour-long discussions with different people about the themes of that movie and the commentary presented within it. You know, when are you going to talk about with Captain Marvel. Other
Ben
than
Mendelsohn is amazing, and he does the best
Yeah.
with kind of shoddy FX.
Can I just say that Ben Mendelsohn, just the scrolls in general, were the most cartoony things ever. And
I
if they
love
would have
them.
just
I
pushed
love
that
I loved it.
cartooniness,
That was the
they should
highlight
have
of the
pushed the
movie.
cartooniness a little more. I freaking
Yeah.
really enjoyed how weird they were.
I
They were
love
just growling, even though they could speak. That was really funny to me.
And the
It's
tiny
great.
ones, on the ship. I want a toy. I want a fluffy one of that, and they were so cute.
Also, he's like the scientist.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Best thing
Who
in the
doesn't
movie.
say anything, and you're like, oh, I wonder what this dude's gonna be like. And then he like just has the most awkward line delivery. Like it was just perfect. Something about them was the movie needed more of that. I think if it had lent into the weird, we spend a bit of time on the Kree homeworld, but like it's the same thing handled a lot worse here. But the same thing I found in Aquaman, where it's like, where is the sense of the civilization? What is give us that ground level stuff. I hate to go back to this, but I fucking love the Avatar anyway. I'm just gonna throw this out here.
It's fine.
But Avatar has such a great idea of someone moving from one culture into another and giving a ground level sense of everything that makes that culture what it is. And so many of these sci-fi movies that take us to different worlds are completely missing how that works. Even if so Captain Marvel starts in a different world, right? But there's no Star Wars starts in a different world. It never comes it's always in a different galaxy.
Yeah.
But we really get a ground level sense of how that world operates incredibly fast. And it's so surprising to me that movies have been doing this for so long and so well. And yet we get blockbusters now that are not doing that. I just find that crazy. Actually, back to Wonder Woman quickly. Wonder Woman actually also builds a pretty strong, not an amazingly strong sense, but a pretty strong sense of how that culture operates. And I'm just surprised more movies are not doing that.
I was just thinking that this movie could have been 10 times better if they'd spent the first 20 minutes in Kree and just given the audience a whole bunch of propaganda on the lies that Kree are, and then spend the whole narrative tearing those down.
Yeah. They could have had an assault on Kree as opposed to going, the Kree homeworld and then a different planet.
Yeah.
Like they should have kept it grounded in that, do some political backstabbing business or whatever, but use that world because we didn't see any of it. They're like, the super intelligence. And I'm like, what is this? Why are they ruled by super intelligence? What?
And actually starts the movie in Kree, believing the propaganda, going to another world, having it exposed that's all a lie, and then coming back to fight it. As that would have made sense story-wise.
And then I think
I think there are a lot of movies now that I think of something like Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
Never seen that.
And it's like it's all spectacle. All these movies are like it's the next Avatar, and it's all spectacle, but it's not transportative. You're seeing these amazing layered worlds and look at all the people and CGI and all this kind of stuff. But you're not immersed within them because you don't understand how they work. You don't have a sense of where they are. There's a theme park of Avatar now, and it's because of the world that is transportative and you want to live in.
There's little moments in Avatar where Jake is touching the bugs and they're jumping up and fluttering around. He touches one thing and the flower completely implodes on itself. And just little details like that of interaction, of tangibility that these movies lack.
Side note,
I think
that I didn't like Alita. I thought it was messy and bad, but it did a really, really good job with the world building, and that was the best part of it. Was you felt like the city that she lived in was a real place, and you understood how it functioned by the end.
Do you think if the movie had a linear narrative, the past thing was at the beginning, and then we see how she forgets everything, she gets her powers, and then
it wouldn't
she goes
work.
to Kree.
I think actually the movie's structured, or the bare bones is structured right. I think it's best to start with her as a blank slate because you have to follow that emotional journey. I just think that the emotional journey, as presented, is not particularly compelling. And
it's just that the Amnesiac stories are kind of bad.
Yeah, the backstory is dull as hell.
They never work. I don't like them.
I never got the relationship between her and her co-pilot. Those scenes were probably the weakest for me.
I didn't care about anybody in the movie like at all, except for Samuel Jackson and the Skrulls. Like,
and that's more, and Samuel Jackson. That's more just taking your love of the other films and projecting.
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
and that
if
was-
Samuel Jackson was a new character, I wouldn't care for him at all because he
No.
had nothing to do in the movie at all. It was just like he was there and he was funny.
Well, that was
And
a
that was
case
it.
where with her relationship with her co-pilot with Maria was like it kind of reminded me of the Star Wars prequels where we're told that Anakin and Obi-Wan are best friends, but we never actually see them be best friends. And so like we see photos of them hanging out and doing cliche things that friends do together, but like you never sense that, you know.
Did you see that deleted scene of Revenge of the Sith where Anakin can speak like droid? He's like,
Amazing.
hey, isn't up? He's like, no, it's down. Oh. it's so
wish
weird. It's
to
so
God
dumb.
that had been in the movie, man.
But
If it was like it's like more of like that chill Anakin I wanted. It's a
Yeah.
But Disney Star Wars is the one that has too much humor. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So, do we want to keep going on this movie, or do we want to talk about the conversation surrounding the film? The more.
Oh, that's so risky.
That's so risky.
I mentioned it briefly in my review, and I've got like I think my Captain Marvel
He got shot.
is the
Yeah,
worst
Bailey got
I've
shot.
had.
Oh, wow.
It's a shit show, and all I did was basically like literally like I'm cool to repeat it. I was literally like pretty much get the fuck over the controversy around it.
Yeah.
Like I'm just kind of, for me, like I understand if people are mad. I think a lot of the, it looks like we're talking about it just quickly. It looks like we're going into it a little bit. For me, like a lot of people have misunderstood or heard a misquote of what Bree said, and you know that happens. It's how the media works today. But like, I am surprised that people are so mad about it. Like, I'm trying to work out what.
Yeah.
Like people are mad. People are mad, and okay. But I'm like, and I know what they're mad about. But what I can't really understand is like why it's a maddening thing. Like, because like here's the thing. All Bree said was that she doesn't care about the opinions of 40-year-old white dudes on this film. So the only way that I could understand that making you angry, all she said is she wanted more seats at the table, pretty much. She's not taking away. She doesn't care if I'm a white dude. She doesn't care if she's cool for me to go make a review. She's just not interested in it. She doesn't personally care.
And when she said the comment, that was more about Wrinkle in Time, right?
Well, she was like, Wrinkle in Time is not made for she's like, I'm more interested in seeing what the target demographic of that movie thinks of it. And for me, that's fine. I appreciate that, that's cool. God, people are talking about Star Wars with bullshit in the chat. God.
Of course.
God,
I mentioned it once.
We'll
and
never
shut
be
up.
talking about Star Wars.
But like,
Jeez.
yeah, what I don't get is like, okay, why would that make you angry? How is that a threat to you if the actress of a movie doesn't care about what I like? Why would I'm not mad about that. I'm not like, Brie, watch my review. What? Why?
Yeah.
I don't understand why that would make someone
And
mad.
most actors do not watch reviews for very good reasons, and that it's not healthy.
All the
Honestly.
other actors in movies watch my reviews, and now Brie Larson won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shit, she doesn't care about our opinion. It's funny that like that she would say like she doesn't care about old white dudes' opinions on the movie, and then old white dudes can like got really mad, really sexist, and really intense about it. And it's like, I wonder why she thinks that you guys are out of touch. Like what?
Yeah.
Everyone
More
literally just
importantly,
like
the
directly
reaction
into it.
to Bree's comments only confirmed that she was right. Honestly.
Yeah, look, I think her delivery of what she said was not fantastic. And this is what I say about when people on Twitter say like, oh, hot take, and then say something. It's a way of like inflaming the conversation of what you're going to say. And then it makes it a combative stance, right?
Yeah.
So she did take a combative stance about it. And you got to remember that people on the internet these days are, unfortunately, we're all a bunch of little bitches, and we can't seem to handle the way anyone delivers anything. So her delivery was not fantastic. But at the end of the day, the sentiment of what she's saying is not fuck white dudes. It's let's get more seats at the table for everyone else. And I think it says a lot about people that you'd read it that way in the first place. It's like an attack, an assault on white men. I don't know.
Yeah.
I started watching like the more like racy parts of like the YouTube videos of Captain Marvel, like the more sexist reviews of Captain Marvel. And there was a video that literally ended. There was a review of Captain Marvel that said they made Captain Marvel a woman. That's literally how it ended. Like that was an actual criticism.
Yikes.
Like it was so bad. It was just it's
Have you
horrible.
read the comics? Have you?
Yeah, it was just it's so weird. Like I get it. Like I understand why you'd be mad, but it just every single review I've seen is like from that's not someone that's I respect as a reviewer is so sexist. It's really ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's kind of scary.
It's interesting that people can't like something that I've found is like people who don't like the movie. Like we've all sat here and critiqued
we have a problem.
Movie.
We are a very opinionated group of people that have this is what we wanted more of, or X, Y, and Z, and all that stuff.
And we're able to do that, but so many of the comments that I've got on the review, I just got another one then, which I'll send to you boys later. It's baffling. It's just I really need to get like block a bunch of words like SJW and stuff. That needs to anyway. But like, yeah, God, it's just I don't understand why these people are feeling the need to tie the fact like. There's a lot of people that have seen superhero movies where they don't like the character for whatever reason. But so many people are tying it here to the fact that it's a woman. So say you didn't like Man of Steel, or you didn't like the take on on Kal-El or Clark Kent. You didn't like that take, or let's say you didn't like Ant-Man or Doctor Strange. You didn't like how that character was handled. You just say that. Like so many people are like going, she's uncharismatic and she's uppity and she's stuck up and she's a bitch and it's because she's a woman. And I'm like,
yeah, it's
why
not
is
because
that
she's a
not
woman.
necessary?
But I think from what I can tell, the idea is that he's going for a pro. Like even the big arc of the movie is supposed to be that she's all supposed to be emotional, and at the career don't be emotional. At the end, she's like, I will embrace my emotions. That seems like a very pro-female message. And this movie does have the seeds of feminism, if that were. But I mean, from my opinion, it's not particularly well presented. But that is at the core of the film. And for these idiots, it's like feminism equals bad, right? And that's the amount of nuance we're dealing with.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that I wish it was a better movie so that I could defend it harder.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
There's The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was divisive, maybe a little bit for political whatever.
Okay, before we start talking about The Last Jedi,
bold and took really hugely strong choices with the message and everything, and with the narrative. And so, if you liked it, you liked the bold choices, and if you didn't like it, you didn't like the bold choices. And I was like, this makes sense that it's divisive, and I feel like it almost obviously the conversation around The Last Jedi was very toxic, but it warranted its divisiveness to some extent because it was very bold. Captain Marvel does not warrant divisiveness. It's a bland, kind of mid-tier Marvel movie. It's fine. I wish
the whole arc thing.
Love it. It's whatever.
The whole arc thing about Captain Marvel and how she has to gain her emotions back, I guess, gain her humanity back. It never really worked for me because she starts and ends the movie exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I thought she was going to have this emotional moment that actually lets you in on, she actually is getting emotions back, and that's why she started the movie so stoic, and that's what she's going to be like at the end of the film. I thought it was going to be her arc, but she stays the same.
The sad part is that I think the mentality behind that decision is because they can't have a movie where the lead is kind of bland and that they're just going through the motions. They probably tried that, and it's like, look, this is boring as hell. They may have been there on set and okay, let's put some jokes in there. Let's put some flair and style. But that flair and style actively went against what the movie was likely going for, or at least what the bare bones structure of the film is, right? That she should have been confused or not completely confident in herself in the opening scenes because that's how they conditioned her, right? And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect happens.
You know what's also funny is that in the beginning of the thing, I actually like some parts of the movie because it reminded me of the series I'm working on because it's also very sci-fi. But there's this right at the beginning, how she's like, she calls Jude Law's character and she's like, hey, it's the morning, want to train? But then they're training and then it's like she beats him up during training. It's like, that's so messed up. You just asked him to train with you and now you're just like exploding on him. Like, it's just weird. It's just a weird movie. I don't like it.
Mauricio, obviously, you hate women and you don't want them to be powerful. That's what I think.
And
that's what I hope people don't think I'm saying. I'm okay with women being powerful. It's just that this movie presented that as women being powerful means that a woman has to have like no emotions, have no arc. She's just always powerful all the time. And it was just weird. Like,
well,
it's like the movie,
just like with Alita and just like with what people say about Rey, I don't think is true. I think Rey is obviously a much better character than Captain Marvel.
The Rey comments I've never understood. She is presented as flawed and naive throughout the entire series.
I think Rey is far less of a Mary Sue than Captain Marvel is. If you were to call Captain Marvel
honestly,
Mary Sue,
that word doesn't exist in my vocabulary. It is sexist in nature. We shouldn't even humor it, right?
But I think that, there's this new brand of in order to do a female superhero movie, it has to have a lot of sequences where she just slays. Like, she has to wipe and we have to have some gifable moments and have some, scenes that we can bring up on Twitter as like, this is iconic female power,
And it's like iconic, hashtag mood.
Yeah, hashtag aesthetic, can we get something with tension? Can we have layered, nuanced, dynamic characters that have weaknesses and strengths and, not every sequence has to be her wiping the floor with everyone else. Like,
that's funny because there isn't a single sequence in Captain Marvel where Captain Marvel loses. Am I wrong? Does Captain Marvel lose in any sequence? I can't remember.
The first chase scene when that was probably the best action scene was the train chase with the Skrulls.
The train. She loses in the train.
Well, the people they escape the Skrulls.
But she doesn't really lose.
Yeah,
she like loses like a fight is what I'm saying.
Got it.
I wish there was a moment where she went
the opening action scene. And I will say, I think there's a lot of, again, we're being harsh in the movie because when you review a movie or when you see a movie, oftentimes the negative things are the easiest things to come to you, right? And there is one like mirroring that I like where the movie starts and like I like the final moment between Brie and Jude Law's character, and he's like, "Let's do this fit hand to hand. If you have to beat me old fashioned way." She's like, "Fuck you." I'm just gonna.
You know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of exactly like Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones and
that was good. Yeah.
And I wish
exactly like that.
One moment where she was like, she finally lets loose and she just does it. That would be great. But that's after an entire 20-minute spaceship battle.
That should have happened beforehand. That should have happened back on the ship.
Well, I love the idea of that being the final thing, and like final successful.
Did you? I felt like there should have never been a gigantic spaceship battle.
Yeah,
I feel like that was so weird.
Yeah.
It just felt weird.
Can I just say, it'd be interesting. Like, we're four guys talking about this. It would be interesting to see. Like if I was a woman, like how would I respond to this differently with these same issues? Now, I want to point out, like, all of these story concerns that we are raising are the exact same concerns we raise with any movie. There's no difference in the way we're discussing this because it's a female-led movie. People like, oh, we shouldn't compare Captain Marvel to Wonder Woman. It's like, man, I compare the Winter Soldier to the Dark Knight to Iron Man 1 to Spider-Man. Like, I do it all the time. There's no reason why I don't think we should do that. The difference when you pit them against each other as a thing about like which is the better female one. Yes. But what I want to say is I think it would be interesting because it feels to me in a way like Captain Marvel is almost pitched more as a power fantasy for women.
Yep.
And if you look at it through that framework, I don't know if it's like I can be that mad at anything wrong with it. So I haven't seen enough responses from female critics and female voices to know. But like us as guys have had plenty of like most action movies we get, like superhero movies aside, are power fantasy movies. So like I would be interested to see if that comes across as a problem for women as well. I'm sure there's plenty out there who have had the same issues with character as us, but I'd just be interested, almost as Bree said, to see what the target audience of this movie is responding with it. And obviously we know it's got an A cinema score or whatever at the moment. Audiences are responding, it's making money. But I think there's something, a lot of money. Which Marvel movies will just do now till the end of time.
This is a step up. This is doing better than the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. This is a step above Marvel normal.
No, I know. But I'm interested in what the response to it is, because while we're talking about, I think, I'm going to say my least favorite phrase ever. Everything is subjective. But and I think these story concerns we're having, we all seem to kind of be having the same concerns. I'd just be interested to see if other people are finding more in it.
Different layers.
You know what I mean?
And I think,
as I've said, people have.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I think the key turning point between the toxicity and legit criticism is that this is built as a power fantasy, and I think that's amazing. I think we need more of them for females. I'm never at one point criticizing the fact that this film is a power fantasy. My criticism is that I don't think it's a particularly great power fantasy, and I think it could have been a better power fantasy. That's the core issue. That's where it's awesome that they built this movie for women by women at the start. I think that's wonderful. I don't think they did the best job, and that's okay. I hope next time they do better. I hope next time they work out their kinks and everything like that. And that's kind of, I guess, honestly, my takeaway is good luck next time.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine.
In general,
do you think the Russos will fix her in Endgame?
I'm not sure she'll have much or how big of a role she'll have in it.
Yeah, no, I think they will though, because the Russos seem to have taken pretty much every character and put them into the right, like the most primed position to operate long term with everyone else. Like it's all good to set up and Houston's gone. It's all good to kind of set up a character in a particular way in a solo film. But it's a very different thing to how will that dynamic work when you put that person with everyone else? And I think the Russos, I almost consider Thor Ragnarok a complete reset of Thor. Thor comes back pretty much a different person. And I think it's an incredibly difficult thing the Russos had to do to then reincorporate that character into that world. And then same as integrating the Guardians into that dynamic. I would have no concerns that Captain Marvel will not come out a better character and possibly even a fan favorite after Endgame.
I think so too. Did you see her costume in the post-credit scene? Yo, that shit was so cool.
Well, it was technically a scene from Endgame, so I was kind of watching it because I didn't want to know. Obviously, I've avoided the trailer, so I'm like, oh, I'm interested, but also is this feels like spoilers?
Dude, her suit is so cool, man. It's like they got gold plated. It's nicer. I like it a lot more. It looks slimmer.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's weird.
Yeah, I would say, going back to the power fantasy thing, that I don't know if power fantasy is enough to drive a story, and I don't think it works well with the common standards of storytelling. to build a film entirely around seeing someone do cool things and being inspired by that or whatever.
Tell that to the James Bond franchise.
Well, but the James Bond franchise is not an entire. That every movie is not James Bond.
Peaks and valleys.
Like James Bond. Consistently and frequently imprisoned and tortured.
Fair enough.
That's not my power fantasy. So
that's what I want. I want in my power fantasy. I want to be whipped in the balls by a giant rope.
Oh yeah, that one. Casino Royale is so good. I'm sorry.
I have my video on it. It's one of my favorite videos of mine.
I think it's one of my favorite Bond films. Maybe my second or first. I don't know.
It's the best one. But I think, and an additional point is that if you're again. This movie is a power fantasy. It's an okay one, and it's making a lot of money. And if you think that that's the end of the world, as so many fans are online are thinking, you really need to reevaluate your priorities. And again, like this whole Alita versus Captain Marvel thing, it's like if you honestly want to do that, okay, but actually defend Alita. Don't pit these women or these female movies against each other. That is the most sexist thing out there.
Yeah.
And I have no tolerance for it. It is.
Yeah, that's like
thing, basically.
Could you repeat what you said? I'm sorry.
People are basically just using Alita as a token, you know.
Oh, yeah.
They're not actually talking about that film, you know.
Yeah.
Like actually talk about the film. I think Alita is awesome. I love that movie, not in both ironic and non-ironic way. I would love to discuss Alita and its creative decisions. And like I read an article the other day on how it's secretly a brilliant trans movie in a way of how it's spoken to a lot of trans audiences, because in the film Alita finds a new body, and that the body shapes itself around her mental image of who she is, and it's a moment of self-discovery, and that metaphor has had tangible impacts on people who live in, like, it's one of those moments where it's like, that is cool. I want to see the movie again through that lens. But I want to be having those conversations, not, is Alita a better female protagonist than Captain Marvel? And as long as you're putting female protagonists at the female first, that's where you kind of run into a big wall. That's where, that's where the conversation ends.
Yeah.
Well,
Do we wrap? Was that it? Was that the final thing?
I feel.
Should we get
I
some
feel like
comments? Some from the the chat.
Yeah, we'll take.
Sure.
We'll take
Do you guys have any
take some
questions?
for a bit?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
take some
And
questions for a bit.
And everyone was quiet.
There's no questions.
Well, it takes a second.
I mean, I don't expect them to write super fast.
No, and it's delayed by a few seconds.
Would you guys ever have Mola?
No.
On the film?
No.
no.
Oh my
No.
god.
No.
Mola might be my least favorite person, film commentator on this site.
One time I commented on his Black Panther review that there were so many things wrong with this video that I didn't have time to talk about them. And he responded to me within, like, I'm not even kidding, like 20 seconds. He responded with a comment saying, "Oh, you just don't want to defend your own points," or whatever. And so then I did. I wrote an essay of what was wrong with his video.
Thoughts on Talos? Thoughts on Talos?
Best part
I
of the
thought it was
movie.
really good too.
Best part.
I loved it when he was wearing a hoodie at the end. That was good.
Oh, him drinking out of that cup with a straw, my lord.
That's a meme. That's a brilliant meme now.
I thought the VFX of the movie was okay. I didn't think it was like amazing, but it was good. There was some really good stuff, and there was some really bad shots too.
It felt like they spent most of the money on the first 20 minutes. Like, I thought the first 20 minutes, like, wow, this is really good. And then the middle section was just indoor
ass.
Yeah.
The scrolls shape shifting when they were in the beach was really bad. Like, I saw that and I was like, ooh, oh, that's bad. I mean, for me, that looked like a Fantastic Four. When I did that in my video again. It's like when Reed Richards is changing his face in the car. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
That Forsythe? Yeah.
Yeah, even like the Mystique effects in X-Men are kind of better.
And that was 2000 or
yeah.
whatever.
Zack Snyder, we're trying to get him on FilmHub, definitely. We'll see. Maybe in the next few months.
Alex has already interviewed him. Hasn't he? So we'll get Alex to just give him a buzz and get him on.
Favorite final fight in a superhero film? I have a video on this, but I would say the final fight in Civil War between Captain America, Iron Man, and Bucky.
I love that one.
That's
that
my
one's
favorite.
So good.
I wish there were more like it. And because it's not about stopping the bad guy, it's about genuine drama created between all the characters, and you understand each perspective, and just kind of like Zemo sets up all the kind of dominoes and just lets them go, and then he takes a step back. That would be my favorite.
I would probably say
I don't watch Ben Shapiro.
He's a right wing kind of.
No, I know who he is. I just haven't seen like anything. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As you're saying,
I was like, "What is that? A final fight in a superhero film?" Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro versus what would be like AOC,
Wonder Woman
Andrea
and
Cortez.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I would say my favorite final fight in a superhero movie is maybe the third act of Winter Soldier. I really love it. I love Cap and the
I really like that one too.
fighting Bucky, that's really emotional. The Falcon stuff is really good. Taking down the helicarriers is great. It's a really well orchestrated third act that uses all the characters to their best functions.
Yeah.
Even having Black Widow disguised as the councilwoman is really good. I like all that stuff.
Oh shit, I love that too. God damn.
I also I just did a video on this, but Thor Ragnarok has a great third act.
I was about to say that, dude. When Led Zeppelin plays, like
yeah.
Does Hellboy 2 count as a superhero movie? Because if so, that's probably my favorite final fight.
Yeah.
I've lived for that. It's so well done. Del Toro is just such a great action director. My lord.
Favorite
what
Edgar Wright film? That's a good one.
Favorite what? Edgar Wright film.
Scott Pilgrim's on Netflix. I can finally watch it.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. Scott Pilgrim's great. I love
think
Baby
his best
Driver.
film might be Baby Driver, but my favorite will always be Shaun of the Dead because that was.
I haven't seen Shaun of the Dead. I need to watch that.
Oh, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Scott Pilgrim is so good that my first short film was about characters who love Scott Pilgrim.
Dude, it was shot like Edgar Wright too. It was like a huge influence, right?
Yeah.
Like, for every filmmaker.
The sound effects. Do you think Coulson was necessary in the movie?
No, but
he wasn't necessary.
No,
it was
not
nice
at all.
It was nice that he was there, but like it was.
He would. I wish he'd had.
He didn't look that different 20 years in the past. Actually,
yeah. They
just gave him more hair, right?
Yeah. I guess that does kind of cement the idea that he's like this ageless agent who, like, is just always there. I like that.
But seeing as he was like, again, I was really excited to see him because I mean, I've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because I remember watching the first episode of that and thinking that was terrible, so I never gave it a second shot.
Me too. It was so bad. But, it's supposedly really good now. But everyone says the first season is bad, and I don't want to sit through the first season to get to the good stuff.
No. All I remember is I really liked when they tied in the Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D. thing into the show. That was really well done.
I heard about that. That was really good. I like the idea that everything is connected.
One of the main characters is like a bad guy after that moment, I believe.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the new Hellboy, guys?
No.
Me either. It looks really bad, personally.
No, it's directed by them. It's directed by Neil Marshall, who is practically like the second version of Alan Taylor, who is the guy who did Thor: The Dark World. It's a Game of Thrones director that they've brought over.
He has a really fantastic horror film called The Descent. That's one of my.
Oh no! So there is that element to it, but I would not. Nothing about that movie. Nah. I think David Harbour will be good, and the makeup looks fantastic. But yeah, I would not put a lot of faith in that one.
Do you have any Endgame predictions?
It's funny, whenever I see Endgame, I'm so versed in the box office scene that I was like about to just shout a number out there.
Oh wait, no, say it. What do you think? 2 billion?
Yeah, no. Well, okay. So I would go for opening weekend. I would say like 265 million, which would be a record. I don't see how it can go much higher than that because you're kind of reaching full capacity at that point, especially with a 3-hour runtime. But worldwide, it's pretty much a 1.8 billion versus 2.1 billion range.
I had never really thought about that there's a limit on how much a movie can really make.
Because of seats. It's crazy.
There's only so many showings you can do in a week. Or weekend.
But predictions, what do you think will happen? Who do you think will die, man?
Do you think Steve will say this every time? Steve self-sacrifice, Tony retires. But the rest of them I don't really know about.
Tony Stark has retired like 5 times, and so
but like now, as I say this every time, Pepper is 1,000% pregnant. He's gonna have a kid. He's gonna retire. He'll come. I would not be surprised if he comes back in 20 years. If in 20 years he rocks back up again, but I think he's gonna be out after this one.
I think Spider-Man gets a new movie. It's gonna be.
A Spider-Man in Far From Home. It's like Far From Home. It's like Tony's not there. But Happy is, and it's kind of weird.
But Happy's there, yeah.
And maybe Tony did die, but there's also the possibility that he didn't because Peter would be mourning a lot more.
The thing about Infinity War is that one thing I loved about it, we were all convinced that like Cap would die in that film, and that film
I wasn't
really subverted of who we thought was going to live or die in that.
Yeah, they killed all the secondary ones. Yeah.
Yes, and more importantly, I don't want to go into Endgame with a checklist of who I want to live or die or whatever. I think that's just a very vapid way of viewing the movie.
Yeah,
I think but I think that's cool with enjoyment though, because it's like, oh my god, is he gonna die here? That's at least.
But even then, you're not engaging with the story then if you're thinking that way. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily, man. There's a difference between wanting something and liking the idea of something happening. So, like, there's a difference between someone going into a movie and being like, oh, so, like, I can't wait to see Luke Skywalker rip a Star Destroyer out of a sky.
Don't bring back this. Don't bring
As
back
opposed to going, it'd be cool if I saw that, but let's just go with the story. I think it's cool. For me,
there was one guy who went to Last Jedi. He's like, I can't wait to see Luke Skywalker throw that lightsaber behind his back. And then when the moment happened, he's like, yeah,
man, he had his best day.
Best guy.
I was gonna say, you know, we should at some point, because obviously we're gonna do a video on Endgame or maybe even Shazam. But we should really, I don't know about you guys that are watching right now, but we should probably try to do a video on something that's not a superhero movie at some point. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling we have an indie discussion at some point.
We do, but
like, that video gets way less views.
Hey, no, that's fine. That's fine, because I feel like we can't always, like, we can carry this thing on our personalities alone. Let's give some other movies a chance. Otherwise, because you guys talk about, we're like, we do videos of mainly superhero movies, and it feels like if we just keep talking about them, we're just propagating the cycle. Like, if that's the only content.
Like, yeah, people like me enough to watch anything I do.
That's the goal. Hey, that's the goal. That'd be perfect. To the point that I could do.
That's true.
At the point that I could do a video on American, like an I love on American animals, or like You Were Never Really Here on its own.
Dude, I made a video on American animals, and it has like
no fucking watched it.
I wanted to die. I was like, no.
It's such a good video, and no one watched it.
It's such a good movie. Yeah.
But
thank you.
There's a middle ground though between American animals and superhero movies, and I mean, again, I don't know what would be in that middle ground, but there is a middle ground. There shouldn't be.
But no, we should. We should do a video at some point and kind of discuss that stuff. Our comments will be still 100%. What are your thoughts about superhero movies? But I reckon we should try to mix it up a little bit.
All right, guys. Well,
Mike, call it a day. What videos everyone got coming up next though? Let's do a quick plug.
Black Panther video for me coming very, 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 very soon. I'm excited to share it.
I have a analysis coming very soon. Extremely excited for. I'm trying to get that out before like 500 other people do a Spider-Verse analysis.
Yeah.
I have an Amazing Spider-Man 2 biome, and after that, I think I might talk about Logan, but I'm not entirely sure. But we'll see.
All superheroes.
Superheroes, yeah. I'm sorry.
I've got this month. I've got 2 or 3 videos. I've got La La Land coming up. I've got Assassin's Creed 2, and I've got Game of Thrones coming up before the show comes back. So there we go. Everyone's
Bailey has worked on this La La Land video. I swear, you gotta watch it. You gotta give it some views, please, Lord.
It's been 4 months.
Favorite Ghibli film that's not Spirited Away or Mononoke?
It's Kiki's.
What is this fucking movie called? From Up on Poppy Hill. From Up on Poppy Hill. I love that movie a lot. I really do. That might be my favorite Ghibli film.
I've only seen those 2. So
From Up on Poppy Hill is great.
Up on Poppy Hill. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. That's it from me then. How's it? We would have bailed out.
That was it. All right.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yes.
Bail out. Is that a Bailey pun?
No, it's just I say it all the time and then people make a joke.
Do we just say goodbye and do I just click stop?
We just did. Or... I feel like we have like 5 times.
Yeah, man. I'm getting out of here.
All right, let's go. All right, do I click bye? Bye.
Bye. Bye.